Hello everyone. So I was checking on the ongoing development of Jagged Alliance 3 recently, and to my pleasant surprise, found the latest trailer released by THQ Nordic called Legacy. And then to my bigger surprise, the video featured none other than the director of Jagged Alliance 2 himself, Ivan Curry. Now he's apparently hired as a writer for Jagged Alliance 3, looking like some wise sage of turn-based wisdom. Nonetheless, it was a treat for fans who finds him in good spirit and to contribute. So
Don't fuck it up.
also there was some new information that came to light. I mean, it's not really new, but there was some additional information revealed in the Gamescom conference held last year. And also the developers came out for an interview, and with them additional footage, pre-alpha footage, and live QA session. So that was pretty informative. So I based my newest impression on these most recent footages, such as this strategic view you can see here. This is now called satellite view, and this is what Ian in the trailer mentions to be one of the three most important things about Jagged Alliance experience. You could actually play the game in Jagged Alliance 2 from start to finish in this mode. Pretty sure that a person from Germany managed to do it. I don't know whether he was successful, but yeah, it's actually possible from the midpoint on to direct troops in the strategic layer alone to the final goal, Meduna. So this is a very important thing, but then in this game, Jagged Alliance 3, seems that this layer has undergone some serious makeover. It was briefly mentioned in the Gamescom interview that there's a timeline on the bottom of the screen now. And I was wondering what was so wrong about the log in Jagged Alliance 2 that basically relayed every information of every event as they happened. I'm guessing maybe because they thought that it was an information overload. It was just too much wall of text, so to speak, that could turn away or scare away some people. Anyways, this time combines many interface elements from the predecessor for tracking future events and lays them out horizontally. Time passing by slides a bar across from right to left as the events that are about to happen are logged. Unlike in Jagged Alliance 2, only the events that actually happened is logged. So it's going to make it easier to view the notable events that happened in the past, but also that are about to happen in the future, such as arrival times for squads and contract status. In Jagged Alliance 2, you have to basically track your eyes around everywhere in the strategic view to keep track of time, not only the log and the bottom. So I think this is a kind of more efficient way of doing things, but hopefully there are some filters that can be used to screen the information so that we don't get overwhelmed with information, which defeats the purpose of having the timeline in the first place. It also appears that you can set waypoints in this view, and crossing into a sector unchallenged or fighting and winning the sector is going to capture the area for your side, coloring the sector in blue, the other color in enemies' hands being red. The movement factor for squads seems to be most affected by terrain, leading to a decrease of 1 AP for the mercs when the travel tires them out. So to prevent such fatigue, we might call for a vehicle, but sadly, according to developers, a working vehicle is not implemented. Vehicles such as the iconic ice cream truck in Jagged Alliance 2 was not only useful for transporting mercs quickly to places, not to mention, some joyriding through San Mona, but also instrumental in getting taps on the thousands of different items such as weapons and armor, and also craft items in the sector inventory. So I wonder how this game is going to combat such logistics nightmare. And of course, unfortunately, absence of vehicle means that perhaps Skyrider is going to be among the casualties of getting cut from the game. The pre-alpha footage shows some interesting mechanics in the turn-based combat, which is another one of the most important aspects of the Jagged Alliance experience. The most striking thing to me from watching the videos is the way the enemy react when alerted to your presence. And this looks quite similar because they basically borrowed this from XCOM Enemy Unknown by Firaxis. Yeah, that XCOM is such an influential game that touches everything now, that has a whiff of turn-based strategy or tactics. This mechanic, of course, allows enemy free movement, in which they usually get out of the direct harm's way before the rest of the mercs gain back control and go through the turn. It seems to kind of boost survival rates for the enemies to offer a level of difficulty equivalent of having more guys on the other side. maybe they use this because the map is not as big as I think from Jagged Alliance 2, so it might reduce NPC clutter and also avoid possible performance issues. You can also see the sight radius of enemies. It indicates how likely the enemy will be able to detect your mercs. This can be mitigated when the merc in the radius is hidden in some tall bushes or whatnot. One instance where stealth could be useful is tracking the enemy on the map, which seems to offer lots of verticality and multiple paths. But I guess the map is kind of smaller, so there will be no need for minimap because I cannot find where minimap is. And as the enemy are detected by the mercs, they're dynamically listed on the target indicator, just like in XCOM, including the yellow color assigned to a flanked enemy. The enemies seem to patrol in a set path, and there seems to be some fog of war going on in the map where they pop up from a distance. And also they are affected by this unaware status if the mercs are hidden from their view and make them more vulnerable to lethal or critical attacks. But I don't know how the alert system is going to work, whether the entire map is going to go aflame in hostile action or whether it's going to only happen within a radius and not affect the entirety of the map. So when the battle starts, the shoot option brings up an interface in the form of a reticle. It looks inspired by the NCTH system in Jagged Alliance 2 1.13 mod. The chance to hit percentage is still not seen, and the developer explained in their interview that their intention was to make the players feel not as constrained by the number and be more encouraged to explore other available options. One such option might include a grenade that come with high accuracy to hit bonus, just like in XCOM once again. Also, the mercs themselves will provide feedback on the hit chances, so they're just gonna tell you whether they're likely to hit or miss. Also, they're gonna quip about things like their weapons jamming. And the developer further divulged that the game's shooting will come with free aim, along with realistic ballistics modeling that allows for penetration and spread of projectiles. It's very welcome news for the fans. On the receiving end, the damage is localized with additional status effects based on which body part was hit. So if your merc gets hit in the leg, then it might hobble him or her, might not be able to move as much, and might require more AP to move. So I wondered, given the game's ballistics modeling, whether the game could take account of little details such as overshooting, where more bullets and APs can be consumed than intended, particularly from inexperienced mercs. Speaking of action points, given by the merc's agility attribute, the developers are very keen in making them go the extra mile, while encouraging close quarters combat. There seem to be different skills or perks that are packaged set to movement and shooting, such as run and gun and mobile shot. Another nod to XCOM is made with the inclusion of Overwatch, whereas in Jagged Alliance 2, interrupt event was triggered based on mostly RNG and influenced by merc level. Taking cover here not only gives you more protection against damage, but also saves the rest of AP to be used in the next turn. These skills could be unlockable perks or weapons based, and could be an interesting way to develop your mercs and squad, just like you would in modding the weapons, of which there will also be plenty. Another thing to note here is enemies also make use of some of these skills, like sliding to cover and setting up cones of Overwatch. Speaking of making your squad your own, the developer was rather mum on whether a player will be able to create a personalized avatar to be thrust into the event of Grand Chien, which in Jagged Alliance 2 was done by IMP with its colorful profiling questionnaire. I guess its inclusion is still up in the air, but given how much attention is being spent on the mercs in the game and their backstory, I can imagine there might be some issues arising from this custom merc. For example, every merc will be voice acted, and the script is already over 300,000 words. But then this custom character, I wonder if he or she will also have a voice, or be relegated to being, that silent, awkward type like Razor, amid all the chatter by the other mercs. Personally, I might be able to relate, but probably it's not going to be for everyone who might find this inclusion off-putting and a bit forced. And the game's more hands-on approach to storytelling might have a bit more difficult time accommodating this personal character or the custom character. Developers were very excited and effusive about how they're trying to emphasize one of the strongest elements in the Jagged Alliance series, which are the mercs and their unique and larger-than-life personalities. Every one of the 40 mercs will have a unique voice, backstory, relationships, and dialogue options, not to mention outcomes in quests. They will be aware of the environment, situations, squad mates, and we have no shortage of things to comment about. Their relationships will evolve dynamically over the course of the game, and players will have lots of opportunities to define them on and off the battlefield. These qualities will give the game a Jagged Alliance 2 level of replayability, with lots of unforeseen situations and chaos around every corner during the journey. I don't know why, but it kind of sounds like a press release. Blowing some new life into these characters, just with updated graphics and modern gaming tropes in a new setting, is a pretty compelling proposition, and it's no wonder the developers seem the most confident and enthusiastic on this topic. However, one thing that remains static, and hopefully he's in the game too, I love the guy, are the mercs themselves, ironically. First, the character stats did not change from Jagged Alliance 2, which hints at the return of robust core gameplay mechanics. But the numbers themselves, they also remain the same. Apparently, a decade has passed since the mercs romped through Aroko in Jagged Alliance 2, but they seem to have been frozen cryogenically until the event of this game. I guess the developers didn't want to disturb any aspect of what originally made the mercs so memorable, even their stats, keeping up their nostalgic appeal. MD is still wet behind the ears medical doctor who's been thrust into this situation still. And Fox might be that kind of bimbo character to start with, but can develop into pretty cool medic, and so on and so forth. Besides, who would want these mercs to be either be all-conquering one-man army or geriatric versions of themselves? Would you really want a fat, depressed, drunk Ivan on your team?
Ivan Dolvich, I need the money. I'd go.
But it doesn't mean that the game will only feature veterans. There are some new faces in the mix as well, one of whom, Livewire, we curiously see in all the footages of the game.
I'm not ready to die yet. I still haven't won the approval of my parents. Anyone want a chocolate-covered cashew? Hello there.
Things like morale are also in, as the game keeps track of the flow of battle and lets players know when a party's morale has improved or growing in confidence. Wonder if it's going to affect not only battlefield performance, but carry over to the strategic side, like when negotiating a new contract with mercs. And it remains to be seen if morale applies to enemies as well, making them either run away from the fight, go somewhere to regroup and counterattack, retire from the map altogether, or even call for reinforcement from an adjacent sector. Something new that I noticed from the footage is that the mercs are sometimes assigned a class, as seen from the icons that identifies MD as a medic and Bonds is a sniper. But developers later clarified that the mercs development will be open book, basically, which means you'll be able to develop them how you see fit. But I wonder if this skills or perk system is going to be class specific, like in XCOM. The cover system certainly borrows from the Fraxis game, with sticky covers divided between low and high types and set in 4 directions. And finally, one small detail, there's like a block on the health bar, and each block seems to represent 20 hit points. As far as the graphics go, I remain rather impressed by what is shown, pre-alpha footage or not. Though the game honestly seems far along at this point concerning the eye candy factor. Frankly, now I'm not even that bothered by whether the armor will be seen on character models, but still wish for the appearance of certain class of equipment, not individual equipment, but certain class of equipment on the characters to be visually toggleable on or off. I noticed that the kill cam is in and covers different angles this time, and there seem to be some nice character animations for various reactions and status. The environment remains colorful as ever, destructible, affected by a day and night cycle, along with a variety of weather conditions. Overall, I think the developers are trying to keep the legacy of Jagged Alliance 2 and the series alive by providing enough depth in combat while simplifying things on the strategic side, where things can get a bit hairy with the control system. As mentioned, vehicles not in. Furthermore, one wouldn't be able to order guns online, like from Bobby Ray's storefront. It's my wishful thinking, but perhaps that's where the writing chops of Ian Curry might come in. He might be able to help tie up some loose ends in often underappreciated adventure layer of the game, in which all these things can be either mentioned or incorporated somehow. For example, this is rather new for Jagged Alliance series, but then I don't see how choose your own adventure type gameplay could be completely ruled out in this case, because nowadays a lot of RPGs rely on it to provide side content for giving more in-depth information on the characters and providing some context to situations. For example, Skyrider could still be worked into the game in dialogue boxes, and Fade to Blacks, where he might be able to transfer works from one place to the other with just Fade to Blacks. It's just my wishful thinking, but there's still hope. And it's really apparent from the last videos, last few trailers and interview that Haemimont really wants to press on the charm offensive using the mercs, exploiting the mercs' individual qualities, and expand more on the adventure and role-playing aspects. What they took away from the strategic side, they might be able to give more on this two components of Jagged Alliance experience. They're introducing different factions into the game aside from the main players called Legion, and the developers plan to apply some of the 90s internet kind of wackiness to the proceedings to what could be viewed as somewhat dry strategic layer, including various tooltips and cues, making it more welcoming to the newcomers to the series or those who grew up in the 90s. Other things they're doing are controller support, cross-platform availability, including the Steam Deck, then most importantly, the multiplayer, although they're not ready to reveal much on that front. So when it comes to the importance of modding, you cannot really leave out Jagged Alliance 2. It's one of the games that have most benefited from modding and the community that supported it. So Haemimont is ready to offer modding, even to the point of wondering whether one will be able to recreate Jagged Alliance 2 in Jagged Alliance 3. And they also plan to keep the same kind of open world exploration feeling across the game's huge 160 plus sectors. And one will be able to take their time and go off the main quest line to discover the world on their own terms, interacting with various NPCs and factions. And that's going to make for an emergent experience that will make Grand Shin feel just like Aroko. Maybe one could be in for a surprise with the second showdown with either the Bloodcatch or the Crepitus, mod or not. Alright, so that's all I want to say for now on Jagged Alliance 3. I think these guys, Haemimont and THQ Nordic, have some good intentions in their heart and have made some good progress already. I think the development is being directed by a pretty keen sense on where this series currently stands, drawing a careful balance between keeping relevant to the veterans of the series while bringing up to expectations of modern gaming. I think the aim of Jagged Alliance 3 is not to replace Jagged Alliance 2, especially version 1.13, which still casts a giant Mount Everest-sized shadow on the series, but to exist along with it at first, and draw support from it and its community and its experience, wealth of experience, to reach a point where it can stand on its own and become another so-called game with a long life cycle, entertaining both new and old fans for years to come. And I'll be keeping tabs on this game throughout the year and going to make more videos on the impressions as more information is revealed and the game takes shape. Thank you so much for watching, and until then, please stay tuned.